6 and then other verses, because I want to cover two animals, two creatures today. And there are so many things to learn from nature. And so I learned a lot about these animals, and then I am drawing spiritual lessons from these animals. So let's go to Matthew chapter 6. Just for a brief moment, you don't have to read it, turn there, but I want to go there and refer to that. Verses 19 to 24, Jesus had talked about the birds and the fowls of the air, lizards of the field, the grass, and all, how the Lord takes care of them. And he says, you're much better than these, which means he would take care of his people so much more because he loves us so much more than this earth. By the way, when people talk about the environment and how precious it is, just remember, souls and people are more precious than the environment. And if you have to choose between saving the environment and save people, save people. And so because we have eternal souls. So let's go to Proverbs chapter 6 this evening to begin. And here's a good scripture, since we're talking about God teaching us from nature. Here's a scripture that directly speaks about going to a certain creature and learning a lesson from it or from them. Proverbs chapter 6. I think you know the reference. And I think you know these creatures. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 5. 6:5 says this. Deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler. Those lessons there about that some other time. Verse number 6. Go to the ant. There it is. Go to the ant. And he addresses the reader, a specific person. Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Notice the next few verses, the repetition of words, and you get the story about why he's saying go to the ant. Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider, think about her ways. Think about what the ant does. Observe the ant. Consider her ways and learn something from it. Be wise. So the Lord is saying you can learn something about yourself and about life by looking at life, by looking at ants and how they function and what they do. Verse number 7. Which, the ant, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, they have no leader, they have no king, but they're doing something because of the instinct God gave to them. Which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, verse 8, provideth her meat in the summer and gather her food in the harvest. How long wilt thou sleep? That's another word that comes up. How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? Sluggard again. When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. Verse 11. So shall thy poverty come as one that traveleth, and thy want as an armed man. What is he saying from the repetition of these words? Sluggard, sleep. Sluggard, sleep. Ant, consider her ways. What is God trying to say to the reader? What is Solomon trying to teach his readers here about sleep, sluggards, food? What is he trying to teach? Now, when you read the Bible, try to grab what the words are really trying to say to you. So one clue is to look at the repetition of words. Sleep, sleep, sleep. Sluggard, sluggard. Meat in the summer, provided. How long will thou sleep? Well, get up. What's going to take to get you up from sleeping? What is the point of all these verses? Now try to think. Try to think. Don't depend on someone else telling you what to think, but try to think for yourself. What is the proverb trying to say about sleep and sluggards and having food to eat? He's using nature, the ant, as an example of how you can have food to eat. We have an advantage over the ant. We have a soul, we have a mind, we have intellect. What do they have? Instinct. Yet they provide for themselves food. They never go hungry because of one thing. What does the ant do that assures it to have food every day? What does it not do? So questions to prompt you to think. Okay, you give up? Okay. Since you give up, I'm going to have to tell you the answer. To the sluggard, to the lazy man, look at the ant. Watch the ant march. Watch the ant go in a row. Watch the ant do something. They carry something. They take it somewhere. The ant will always have something to eat because it does one thing. It works. Now he says, sluggard, you're going to starve unless you do what the ant does. Work like the ant works. That's what he's trying to teach. The overall picture is God meets our needs because we do something with our hands, with our feet, with our brains. One of the main ways in which God provides for us, for Christians, is because we use our own hands and our own feet and our own brains, our own mouths, our ears, whatever we are, whatever we have, skill-wise, ability-wise, we use that to generate an income. He says, you're like an ant. What do you have? What can you do? Okay, do something with it. Don't sleep your life away. Don't always depend upon the government to take care of you. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes there's a place for that. Really, there is. And yet, he is criticizing people who can work, but they don't. He's finding fault with people who are lazy, but they're healthy, but they don't want to work. They sleep till 10 o'clock in the morning. Who sleeps till 10 o'clock in the morning? I know who. Those who go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're so wound up, whatever they're doing. They have no thought about tomorrow. I got to get up, go to work. Oh, they don't think like that. They just think about now and the friends and the fun and whatever else they gotta do this, gotta watch these movies and this, whatever. And so they sleep. They never get a job. They never find employment. And if they get a job, they have a hard time keeping the job because they really don't want to work. They're called sluggards. They're called slothful people. And so the point he is driving home is when you look at the ant, you see that the ant is a very industrious little creature. Let me tell you some things about ants. I don't know a lot about ants and nature, but I learned a lot by reading and observing. Number one, ants in general are a lot of ants around this world. For every human, there's 1 million ants. For every human, there's 1 million ants. Now, whatever researcher figured that out, it might be a guess. But for every human, there's 1 million ants. That's a lot of ants. There's many kinds of ants. Now, every ant, or most ants that you and I see are female. More female ants than male ants. They include workers, the soldiers, and of course the queens. Ants do not have wings except the females, and some of them will of course fly. Now, I am familiar with a certain kind of ant. It's called the fire ant. That's in North Carolina and Virginia and the South. The fire ant, they are known to bite you, and when they bite you, it really hurts. It burns, it stings. They're called fire ants, just like you're on fire. In North Carolina, where Miranda's parents live, they have a yard by their house, and on the walkway to the house, there's little gray mounds, looks like sand, little gray mounds coming up in the grass. You know what they are? My father used to say, oh, don't step on that, don't step on that. I said, why not? Those are fire ant hills. The little mounds, just a little bit like that, but you can see them. And if you kick them, all these ants come out. These fire ants, they're red. And if they bite you, oh, they sting and they really hurt. Fire ants, they hurt like fire. There's also all kinds of ants other than that. In Hawaii, we have a certain kind. Only Florida and Hawaii has these kind of ants I want to mention. You have them in your home, in your kitchen, looking for something sweet to eat. Crumbs. These ants are the little tiny ones. They're kind of clear, they're kind of light in color. They are called invisible ants. Ghost ants. They're called ghost ants. I was told that these little ants are called ghost ants by somebody 2-3 weeks ago. I said, ghost ants? Yeah, because they're so small, and they get on my eyeglasses. I put them on the counter, I put them on my face, and I see ants crawling in my glasses in my frame. They're ghost ants. We have them here. They're very little, very tiny, and they're almost invisible. Now, ants are also very strong. Ants are very strong. Have you seen an ant carry something much bigger than itself? Listen to this number. This is unbelievable. Ants can carry 5,000 times their body weight. 5,000 times. That's like a human who is 200 pounds. He can carry 1 million pounds. That is incredible. They are incredibly strong. They got strong jaws, and they can work. They are creatures of habit. Ants are. They stick to regular routines of work shifts, sleep times, jobs, and eating schedules. Isn't that strange? And they also have different jobs. Ants do their jobs. They work. That's why Solomon says, look at that ant, you lazy man. Look at that ant. Watch them for half a day. You're going to find out that they have a routine. They're carrying something. They're moving something. They're doing here. They're doing that. They're touching children. And they're going back and forth. They are working. He says to the sluggard, the lazy man, you got to be like an ant. So we would say, get on the ball. We would say, come on, get off your behind and go to work. See, that's what we would say to people who can work, but they don't. Now, Brother Bobby cannot work. And that's why it's good that we have a system in our government that can help people who really cannot work. Because you always have the poor with you. And by the way, can I tell you this? That poor people are not to be looked down upon and made to feel like they're nobodies. I have a verse to give to you in just a little bit. But someone like Brother Bobby, who cannot work because of health, it's good that he gets assistance, because people are like that, legitimately unable to work. The Bible criticizes people who can and will not. They can and will not. That's why I'm very suspicious of homeless people, because a lot of them look like they can work. Well, of course, what do I know? I'm just observing. They look like they're healthy, but they're holding up cardboard signs and they're asking for donations. Now, it's up to you what you want to do, but I have experienced that many of them are taking advantage of people who have kind hearts. And instead of them finding employment, cleaning up, shaving, dressing neatly, nicely, as best as they can, going to a place where they can get a place to sleep and get help to apply for a job and learn how to, you see, but they don't do that because it's much easier to live in the streets and get donations. So we have to be careful about that. We cannot be gullible, yet we cannot be heartless. Now, people who work are people who have food. People who work are people who have the ability to earn an income. So ants, Solomon says, they have a good work ethic. And he's contrasting them to those who can but will not work. And that's the way God usually provides for people by their own hands and by their own feet. By the way, years ago, a man came out of prison, and after he came out of prison, he did something that every guy should do when they get out. This man found a job painting houses from friends. He was working at $10 an hour painting houses. That was huge. 10 years, he was working with $10 an hour. I remember that a long time ago, many, many moons ago. And he was willing to work because he's not a sluggard kind of a guy. He's the ant. Hugh the ant. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier tonight as we were taking prayer requests about Filipinos, talking to Filipinos. You know, Filipinos are like Asians, or they are Asians, but they're like Chinese. They're like Vietnamese. What are these people known for? You know what they're known for? Work, work, work. They can work. You know how come they can work? Because they're used to it. It's in their culture to work, work, work. Every hour that they have free, they want to do something that produces an income. They're very industrious people. It's a credit to their culture. I have picked up Uber riders that gets off 9 o'clock from Alameda going to Kalihi, different places of Kalihi. Women. They've done minimum wage work. They're happy they got work. And they're coming home. And they also have groceries with them. They're tired. But they're working. They have a full-time job. Now they take a night job. It's very common in Hawaii. You have to say they are ants. They work hard. They have a good work ethic. Of course, you can't beat the Chinese. They work harder than Filipinos. I'm just kidding. But my parents worked hard. My dad had a full-time job. My mother didn't have a job, but then she got a job when they came from Hong Kong to Hawaii many years ago. And she did different things. She worked in the produce department of a grocery store in Kaneohe. She worked as a dishwasher in a Chinese restaurant. She worked as a cook. She did all these things. She did what she could do. They were always busy. When they were done work, they come home. They would drive in their car and they go down to the country somewhere and find little shells to take off whatever and koa seeds, and they would make lace and sell them. They were always busy doing something because they had a lot of mouths to feed, and they had dreams of buying a house, which they finally did. And so they just always worked. They always worked. They're industrious people. They were healthy, they worked. Some people are healthy, but they don't work. That's what the Proverbs is criticizing them about. Some of them say, there's a line in the street, I can't go to work, I might get eaten by a lion. They're making excuses. And people make all kinds of excuses as to why they cannot work. But I appreciate people who work, because first of all, they feel good about themselves when they're done working. They get tired as can be, but they know that in a week or two, they're going to get a paycheck. They're going to pay their rent, pay their bills, save some money, be able to buy this, buy that. When the kids are growing up, they need to get stuff too, so they can do that for their kids because they have a job. They're working for it. They're not saying, do this, help me, help me, help me, go out in the street. No, they're not doing that because they can work. They have pride. That's a good thing, isn't it? It is. And so, people who don't work but they can, that's the criticism about that kind. Now let me give you a verse. Philippians 2, verse number 30. Here's a man, Paul praises justly, a man who was a servant, a worker. He served other Christians, he served Paul, and he was a working ant. Philippians 2:30 says this, because for the work of Christ he was nigh unto death, not regarding his life, to supply your lack of service toward me. That's Epaphroditus. He is honoring Epaphroditus, the servant who served other believers, other Christians, so much so Paul says he was nigh unto death because he was working himself to the bone. He was making up for other people who could not serve or would not serve. So he carried their load as well as carrying his own share of whatever load it was, not regarding his own life, to supply your lack of service toward me. What a testimony of Epaphroditus from the Apostle Paul himself. Paul looked at Epaphroditus, he says, that man, he works like an ant. That man is such a servant. He washes people's feet, maybe literally, but he does that. He takes to heart the admonition that Jesus gave his disciples of washing feet, of being a servant. If you want to be great, be a servant. And this man, Epaphroditus, was like that. He worked not for pay, but he worked because he loved the Lord and he wanted to serve the body of Christ. He worked and he worked and he worked. So much so he got sick because he didn't get enough sleep, didn't eat, whatever. He wore himself out. He wore himself out. And he is honored by Paul as an ant that works very hard. Proverbs 14:31 says this. Just write the verse down. Don't have to look it. I'll read it for you if you don't mind. Proverbs 14:31. He that oppresseth the poor reproacheth his maker, but he that honoreth him hath mercy on the poor. I did mention earlier that there's no need to look down upon the poor. We should respect them and do what we can to help them because of Proverbs 14:31, which again says, he that oppresseth the poor, reproacheth his maker. But he that honoreth him, the poor, hath mercy on the poor. So, just do what you can to help the poor. Be kind to them. Don't treat them like they're less than you, because the Lord looks upon them and has compassion on them too. The caution is, don't be taken advantage of. That's the caution I always say. And so, the able who are lazy, can work but they don't, that's who is criticized in Proverbs. By the way, you have to take care of the money that you have, of course. You have to have some kind of a budget to know what comes in and what goes out. One sure way of getting into debt is to spend more than you have coming in. That's always a real problem. And to get out of debt, you have to do certain things to get out of debt. There are some good men who are on the internet, used to be on the radio, like Larry Burkett and then Dave Ramsey and others who are very wise about what plan you can take to live and get out of debt. And it all comes down to sacrifice and honoring God and not overspending. So those three things are key factors to get out of debt and stay out of debt. And he has a program where he has an interview with people who are in the studio. They are singles or couples who got into all kinds of debt, student loan debts, too many cars debt, bought a big house that they didn't need kind of debt, impulsive spending debt with the credit cards. And so he gives them advice. The people that come to this program, they are the ones who have gone through all of that, and they have sacrificed, they've made the right steps, they've taken his advice, and now they come to a place where they have reduced their debt from hundreds of thousands of dollars down to they're debt free. $200,000 down to debt free. Didn't happen in 1 year, but they did some steps to get out of debt. And now they're debt free. So they're on the program and they get to shout, "We're debt free!" And they shout and they celebrate like they won the World Series or scored a touchdown. It's a great day when they get out of debt. But you have to, and all of them have to keep working to get out of debt. So that's about the ant. The ant. The ant is an industrious little creature that God put into it to work, 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 and work. Let's talk about another creature that I used to not like so much, but now I kind of respect this creature. Here is this creature. Right here. This is the creature. It's a cat. I used to really despise cat because of bad experiences, as it is with many things. Sometimes if a bad experience, you think it's always going to be bad. Isn't that true? But it's not true. Sometimes a dog might have bitten a relative or a neighbor that you heard about, so you never want to have a dog. Dogs are really good to have. They can be trained. I thought cats could not be trained. I still think that's true. But there's something about cats that's very interesting. It teaches us some lessons, and that's the whole point about nature. It teaches us lessons about ourselves, about life, and about God, and about a lot of other things. So that's why I'm going through the lesson tonight in that way. First of all, according to Hebrew legend, Jewish legend, Noah prayed that God would protect the food that he had stored in the ark for the long duration of the flood from rats. So you know what happened? God made the lion sneeze, and out popped out a cat. That was the legend. That's make-believe. It's not true. It's not true. The point is, cats are very beneficial in many ways. Well, a cat's spine, listen to, a cat's spine has 53 loosely connected vertebrae. 53. That's why it is very flexible. It can turn and twist and squeeze into little places like a rat because of the many number of vertebrae that it has. Cats, you know, when they fall, how do cats land when they fall? On their head? What do they fall on? Everybody knows this. They land on their feet. You know how they can land on their feet? Because cats, they have eyes and balance organs. Yeah, balance organs in the inner ear, which tells them where it is in space as it's falling so that the cat can land on his feet. That's pretty amazing. As it's falling, the ears, and he says, and he calculates things so that it twists and turns and he falls on his feet. Cats can fall 65 feet and not be hurt. They'll twist and turn and they'll land on their feet. I think the highest fall that a cat fell and lived was over 200 feet. But 65 is pretty high. And they'll land on their feet. They'll twist and then something built into the ear allows them to figure this out and calculate it, and they can fall. And it's called righting, R-I-G-H-T-I-N-G reflex. Righting reflex. And so now the cat's eyes, it has unique eyes and it has unique ears. Let me talk about ears. Oh, yes, let me talk about the nose prints first. Every cat has a unique nose print. We have unique fingerprints. We have unique teeth, which can be identified by DNA and forensics and all that, in case there is a need to identify a corpse. But every cat has a unique nose print. No two nose prints of cats are alike. Now, when you hear that, what do you think of as far as a Bible verse? Turn to Psalm 139. This is so fascinating and so interesting about creatures because it leads us to one thing. Psalm 139, verse number 14. This verse is about people. Psalm 139 verse 14 says, I will praise thee, I will praise God, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Whenever a baby's born, you have to say, oh, there is a God. Oh, there is a God. You look at your own thing, your own hand, you say, oh, there must be a God. Look at yourself, there must be a God. You come to this rational, logical conclusion, God made us. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works. So, God's creation of a man and woman, true, absolutely true. But he also made all animals too. And so you have to say that applies to cats because they're so unique and so different and they're so special in their ability to do things. You have to think that Mother Nature was not involved. There was no evolution, but there was in the beginning, God. In the beginning, God. And when you look at a cat, you think about it, you have to remember that unique creature, as unpleasant as it might be sometimes, was made by God. Now, cats can sleep a lot. They sleep most of their lives. As a matter of fact, 2/3 of a cat's day is spent in sleeping. Cats spend 1/3 of their waking hours grooming themselves. That's a lot of licking their paws and whatever else. You know, they're grooming themselves. That's their nature. Now, is there a Bible verse for this? There is actually. Write down Ephesians 5:28. In a roundabout way, this verse is connected to a cat spending 1/3 of its waking hours grooming itself, taking care of itself. I would say that the cat loves itself. I would say that the cat has the nature to keep itself clean. Now, Ephesians 5:28 says this, so ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. Now, the Proverbs, Paul says in Ephesians 5 that a man should love his wife as much as he loves his own self. Now, at first you might think that's a criticism. Is it? Is it a criticism for Paul to say a man should love his wife as he loves himself? Well, I'm thinking about this and I'm wondering if it is a criticism or not. I don't think Paul is criticizing a man for loving himself. It's a natural thing for a man to love himself. Paul is only saying that a man naturally takes care of himself. A man only naturally is curious about his muscles and about his looking good, being admired by people. He wants to be attractive to women and be respected by people in general. So he takes care of himself. He doesn't want to be known as a weakling. He doesn't want to be known as an overweight bowling ball. He wants to be known as somebody who is fit and strong and handsome and smart, all these kind of things. So he takes care of himself. That is almost, what's wrong with that? That should be good. That's self-respect. I take that to mean that the man who should love his wife as he loves his own body is to simply say, okay, you take care of yourself, guy, because you love yourself. Why don't you love your wife, take care of her too? As much as you take care of yourself and respect your body and feed it and do what you do to keep it healthy and running and admire, do the same thing. Give the same attention to your wife. That's what he's saying. And if he would do that, they'd be pretty happy. When a man takes care of himself, he feels pretty proud of himself. Let me say something about pride. Not all pride is bad. If you have no pride, you are just a slouch. You're lazy. You don't care what people think about you. You're unkept. You don't worry about how people think about you. Oh, that guy, man, he didn't iron his shirt. What a bum. Well, I don't care. I don't care what you think about me. That's not a good attitude to have. Well, you know that guy. He just, man. That guy. Ooh, whoa. Well, that kind of a person who doesn't have pride to take care of himself, doesn't have good hygiene, that's not a good thing. But if he takes care of himself, he's well-groomed, he's pleasant to be around, he doesn't smell bad, he loves himself, which is good. Look at his car. Is his car kind of neat? If his car's kind of neat, it's because he thinks a lot about what people think about him. That's a good thing. Now take care of your wife like that. You have a happy marriage. And so he's saying that's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Now cats groom themselves a lot of the time. And so the lesson that you have here is, besides the husband should take care of his wife, the lesson I have is this. Every Christian cannot neglect health. Every Christian cannot neglect hygiene, normal physical activities. They should not neglect. They should everything possible be healthy. And they should never, of course, never neglect spiritual disciplines. The things that makes a man or a Christian woman strong spiritually, they should always pay attention to that and work hard at keeping that up. They must do that if they are to take care of themselves. You cannot expect someone to be spiritual for you. You cannot expect someone to be godly for you. You have to be spiritual and godly for your own self. If you love yourself and want to have a good testimony for Christ, you must take necessary spiritual disciplines to be healthy spiritually. So don't neglect these things, like a man doesn't neglect his good looks or his hair. You know, men are funny. When they get older, they get gray hair. You know what they do? They want to make their hair black again. Why? They get gray hair, they think, oh, that's bad. I look old. Well, you are old. And so why do you want to color your hair black? That's funny to me. And then if you're losing your hair, getting bald, why do you want to get a toupee? I've seen several men around here that wear wigs. And you can tell it's a wig. It's like someone just glued it on their head. It's kind of funny, you know. I guess it's a part of a man's makeup to look good, but you know, bald is beautiful. Did you know that? For a guy. And so you get to lose your hair, be proud about that. Hair gets gray, well, you lived a long time, your hair should be gray. And so people gotta separate taking care of yourself from vanity. Okay? Now, cats purr. Cats purr. You ever see a cat purr? Do you know cats purr for different reasons? And there's a lesson to this. Cats purr for different reasons. Cats purr when they are stressed or injured. They purr when they're upset. They also purr when they're happy. We always think when cats purr, they're happy with me. Not always. Sometimes they're upset about something that got anxiety. Cats rub against your leg to be affectionate or because they're upset. You have to try to understand what's going on with the cat, to always assume that the cat is rubbing against your leg because he loves you so much. He can't live without you. And he's purring because, oh, he just can't stand to be away from me. And you think that is true. That's partially true, but not all true. Sometimes it's because he's bothered by something. So you cannot assume by what it's doing, by what it's saying, it's purring, that you are right in your assumption. Now, write down this verse, Proverbs 18:13. Here's a lesson that I get from the cat purring and rubbing against your leg. Proverbs 18:13 says this: He that answereth the matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. What? Well, here's how I connect things as I observe life. You assume that the cat loves you because it's cuddling up to you. And when it's purring, you think it's saying, oh, I love you so much, master. Oh, you take such good care. I love you so much. Kiss you. No. It could be that. It could be that, but it could be something else. But we always assume it's something positive, whereas it could be something very negative that is irritating the cat. So you cannot really tell all the time by its outward appearance, by what it's purring or by it's nuzzling your foot, that it's happy with you. It could be very upset about something. The lesson is you want to be sure you get all the quote information or facts before you assume something. He that answereth the matter before he heareth it, that's like saying you're jumping to conclusions about something somebody said. He that answereth the matter before he heareth it, you didn't get the whole story, so why are you drawing a conclusion? This is why when there's a news report about somebody who did something very bad, the press, local and national, they always go up to somebody and says, what do you think about what he did? Now think about what's going on here, and this relates to Proverbs 18:13. When a crime was committed or there was some bad thing with government or anything else, they always ask a person not connected to the case or the incident, what do you think about that? Ask yourself, why is it important to ask someone what they think about this when they're not even connected to this? They're trying to get sympathy about pro or against. It doesn't matter what you think because you don't have the details. So if you say, oh, no, I don't think he really did that. He could have done that. Why you say, I don't think you have all the facts. You're speaking without getting all the facts. He did it. He's guilty. But you don't know. You're not there. You're not the detective. So why are you saying what you think? You're just guessing. Your opinion really means nothing because you don't have all the facts. You're answering a matter before you hear all the facts. Do you understand what that verse is saying? Okay, when it comes to the cat, be careful not to assume that people mean something because they act a certain way or say a certain thing. They could mean just the opposite. Boy, you are so good. Boy, that was a great message to that pastor. That was a great message. I'm feeling pretty good. I think this guy liked it. Whereas he might mean just the opposite. You see how that works out? But the cat is purring on my ankle. And it's rubbing against my ankle and it's purring. I'm thinking, I assume he means something positive by giving the compliment. He could mean something totally different. Or I look in church, I see people doing this. And I assume, see, it's a fault. It's a very common fault. I assume that this means I'm not listening, I disagree. I wish I wasn't here. That gesture can be very misleading. I would assume one thing because of the gesture. I'm like thinking the cat's upset. Whereas that person could be really thinking about what God is speaking from the scriptures, you see, right? You don't have to always be shouting to make that as a form of agreement. You could be meditating and thinking. You could be really thinking and wondering if this is for you. You see what I'm saying? You cannot assume one thing by outward appearance or by what somebody says. You could be totally wrong. Like the cat is purring, you might think, oh, I love you, master human. Where the cat is saying, I wish I could get out of this house. I can go chase rats right now. So we've got to be careful about assuming some things before we get all the information. All right? Let me go to another thing here. You get a call from the bank. They said that from your bank. And here's the coincidence. Now this happened to me. This is Wednesday. This happened to me on Tuesday. Sorry, Monday. Happened to me Monday. I had just talked to the church's bank and talked to the lady who opened up our church account many years ago. They've known us for such a long time. They know us very well. And in fact, they know so well. Sometimes when there's no two signatures on the check, usually there's a fee or the check is rejected. They will call me and say, oh, they call me Mr. Singh, there's a check over here and it's not got two signatures. Now, they could have let it go and we would be assessed $12 or $7, whichever one it is. But they gave me the courtesy to go down and get the check and have that second signature. That's because they know us very well. I got a call that same afternoon after I had a meeting with the bank. I'm in my car. I got a phone call. Hello, this is Territorial Savings. I said, really? They don't identify who they are. It's a female voice. I just talked to the manager. She's a female. Okay, so my brain is concluding something because of my recent experience. She says, I need to get your SS number. It's not a strange question to ask someone by phone. Does the bank normally warn you by email, we never ask for your SS number? We never call you to ask you for that? So I got caught off guard and just talked to that person. This voice is not her voice, but it's a lady. There's three ladies in the bank. And I felt kind of safe. Oh, you want my I can give you my last 4 digits. She says, I need the whole number. Now, what would you do? I'm almost caught off guard because of the comfortableness of the day. Just talked to the bank, just went to the bank, Territorial Savings, she says. But she didn't say her name. I didn't recognize her voice. So that was kind of like odd, but then that was overcome by the fact I just talked to someone at the bank. So I felt comfortable. I could have assumed she was legitimate. Boy, could I have been sorry tonight. So do you understand that jump to conclusions before you get all the information is a dangerous thing? Oh, I just hate that when that happens to senior citizens, when people get scammed out of bank accounts and retirement. Oh, it just makes me so furious when people do that, and they're so clever at that. So be careful. Don't assume things. Now, cats, I need to say this. Cats express their feelings by the purring and by the rubbing of your leg. Okay, that's expression of feelings. Most times about, I like my master. You know what mother-in-law does all the time? She's done this for decades. Really. She's done it for decades. For at least 45 years she's done this. She's always sent me and Miranda a birthday card on our birthdays and an anniversary card every year. She's always doing that. She always did that. She always put a little check in there too. We always say, no, don't do that. But she always did that because she just wants to express her love for us. So she still sends me birthday cards. She still sends me birthday cards. What is she saying? She's purring. She's rubbing against my ankle. She's saying, I love you, my favorite son-in-law. She's saying this, she's expressing her heart, she's expressing her love. By her, for her expression is not purring, of course, it's not rubbing it, of course, you know what I mean. It's singing cards, that's what she does. Whatever you do to express your love for somebody, you do that. Whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, let somebody know that you are appreciative of somebody, because one day you don't have that chance. One day it'll be too late and you'll have a long, long regret that you did not express appreciation for somebody when you should have. Don't be shy about that. Cats are not shy about how they feel. They let you know how they feel. They do. Oh, I gotta hurry. Cats remember how they are treated. Just like a crow last week. Cats remember how they are treated. Researchers say, kindness or cruelty, they remember who did it to them, master or anybody else. Long-term memory helps cats, quote, associate people with positive or negative experiences, which is very true. They seem to remember. Now, what is the lesson? It's an obvious lesson to me. People are far more, people have longer memories than cats. They remember the good and the not so good. They remember the times that someone was cruel and harsh to them, unkind to them, and they sure remember more people who were nice to them. They do. That's how God made us. And if we're not careful, we can hold a lot of resentment against someone because we have long memories. So remember that. Cats remember how they are treated. We need to also remember that people remember the good and the bad too, how we treat them. Let me give you 2 verses to write down. Proverbs 18:19. That's the first one. Here's what it says. A brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city, and their contentions are like the bars of a castle. I like to preach on that some Sunday morning to let everybody know this is a good, important issue to remember and how we can affect people. But when you offend someone, really offend someone, to win his friendship again, he says it's so hard, it's harder than scaling a strong city, because there's contentions. It's like the bars of a castle. You can't break through them. So when someone gets hurt so much because of something said or something done, it's a deep hurt. It's like the bars of a castle. You can't break through that. It's so strong. It's so hard. It's so real. Here's another verse to write down. Verse number, Proverbs 18:14. 18:14 says this. The spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity, but a wounded spirit who can bear. Now that's even harder than verse number 19. The verses are teaching us, be careful how you talk to people and how you treat people, because if you hurt them, you wound them, and you wound their spirit, which is very, very deep inside of you, that person may never recover. That person will never forgive you. That person will never, never, ever think of you the same again. That person will break friendship with you. That person will despise the rest of his life. Shouldn't happen, but it does happen, even among Christians, because they're so hurt by what you said or did, they will never forgive you. Be careful, because cats have long memories, and so do people. It's especially true with children. When it comes to children, especially it is true. It's so easy to put down a child because they're not behaving, or because they speak out of turn, or because they do goofy things. It's so easy to say something that hurts their feelings. It wounds their spirit. You say certain things to kids, they'll never forget it. They might forgive you for now because they're told to forgive. Tell your mommy you're sorry. Tell your mommy you forgive her. Tell your father you forgive him. Tell him you're sorry. Tell him you're sorry for getting mad at him. And they'll do the respectfully say, Mom, I'm sorry for getting mad at you. I forgive you. That kid does not really forgive you because you hurt their feelings so deeply. Sorry, but that's how it worked with human nature. The caution is, just like cats remember, people remember. But here's some encouraging things. You be the Christian over someone who has hurt you. And you learn how to forgive them as Christ has forgiven you. That's the secret of not being bitter. The last few verses of Ephesians 4 tells us that. Forgive as Christ has forgiven you. Well, that means that's a big thing right there. That's a big thing. I can forgive, but I can't forget. That is not true forgiveness. Well, did you know if you're kind to someone, you might gain a lifelong friend without even planning to? Can I tell a quick story? Yes? You get time for a quick story? Short story. My neighbor, Walt. Decent guy, don't know if he's a Christian. He doesn't oppose, we talk about church and Christ and all that. I think I may have mentioned a little while ago. I'll mention it again because I didn't think about this part of a lesson, but my point is, I can't remember the good and bad that's done to him. I did something good to my neighbor. I was a good neighbor. Not thinking anything of it. On a Thanksgiving day about 4 years ago, we were waiting mid-morning. We weren't ready to eat yet. I saw my neighbor who drove up. He doesn't always come, but he drove up and there was some demolition going on. There was some rocks and things just picking up by hand, throwing it in a bucket. I went over to help him. It was raining. Went over to help him. I just began to pick up rocks from the bucket like he was. He came up and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Give me a hand." He said, "No, it's raining. It's Thanksgiving." I said, "No, it looks like you need some help." I just went over to help him. That's all. I didn't say anything to him. I just wanted to do that. And he didn't say anything to it the whole day. He said, "Thanks, Steve. Welcome. Anytime." Now, from that moment on, there was a lot of anytimes that came after. He was demolishing the house, cleaning it out from the tenants and throwing stuff in bags and things. He asked us to help him. He paid the boys. He didn't pay me. He paid the boys. I said, "That's fine. Glad to help." That was 4 years ago. Every time he brings someone over to the house, I come over to say hello. You know, he tells the people who are coming over for Airbnb, kind of whatever thing like that, or something else. He says, "Oh, I want you to meet my neighbor." And he points to me. I come over and shake hands with Walt, shake hands with the neighbor. How you doing? He says, "The best neighbor I've ever had." And he points to our house. He points to me. "The best neighbor I ever had." I said, "No, you're a big liar, Walt. See, we're friends. I can laugh with friends and joke. You're a big liar, Walt." He says, No. You're the best neighbor. And he begins to tell all the things I've done. He always goes back to that one Thanksgiving day when I helped him pile up the rocks in that garbage can. He always goes back to that. I say, "Well, you're embarrassing me. You talk about that all the time, like you don't have any brains." He says, "No, I really go back to that." He says, "You're the best neighbor I ever have." No, I didn't do that for the compliment. I just did it, to be nice. And he remembers that. He's a cat. He's a cat. You make sure that your life, you make sure you're a cat. No, you make sure that people are cats to you that remembers the good and the bad. That might help you to control yourself so that you do the better thing. Okay? Let's see here. It's 10 to 8. I need to stop pretty soon. One more thing. May I? One more? One more? It's okay, one more? All right. Cats can rotate their ears up to 180 degrees independently. So if the ears are facing here, they can go like that. And over here. So if it's facing here, it can turn away from where it's facing. Each ear can work independently. They have good hearing. They can hear, they can hear ultrasonic sounds. Their hearing is twice as better as a cat's, as a dog's. They can hear twice as better as a dog, which is pretty impressive. They have 32 muscles to control the outer ear. We only have 6. So that's why they can whoop, whoop, while the others do another thing. It's cool. God made cats. But watch this. Here's the lesson. Cats can hear so well, but cats don't always respond when you call them. The researchers say this. Cats know their names, but won't always respond, quote, She just doesn't care. Researchers say cats can hear you calling them, hey, kitty, kitty. They look at you, but they don't respond to you. They don't come to you. They just don't care. That's what the researchers say. That reminds me of two things. Now, write these verses down. 1 Samuel chapter 3 and Proverbs 1:24. 1 Samuel chapter 3 and Proverbs 1:24. 1 Samuel, the Lord calls Samuel, and Samuel is a little boy, and he answers and says, here am I. The Lord called him 3 times, and 3 times the Lord, Samuel answered, here am I. Now in Proverbs 1:24, the Bible says, because I have called, and ye refused, I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded, because they're like cats. They hear, but they don't respond. God says, I'm reaching out to you. You've heard me, but you're doing this. They're like cats. They're not deaf. They know what God is saying. They hear him, but they choose to not listen. Don't be like a cat in that way. When God is talking through his word, don't be like a cat. Be like a Samuel, a young Samuel. One last one. I got to give you this one because I'm going to go to the next scripture next time. Why do cats like boxes? I got to give you this one. Why do cats like boxes? Here's why. Cats are predators. And they like to hide. Boxes make them feel like they're hiding, and they feel protected. That's why cats like to play in boxes. I didn't know that. I can understand that now. And do you know why you should like church? Because 1 Timothy 3:15 says this. Write that down. 1 Timothy 3:15. But if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. The reason why we should like to be in our box called church is because the church is our sanctuary. It is our safety net. It is our box of safety and refuge and protection. This is where we come away from the world for a little while each week, and we hear God's word, we have fellowship, we have praying, we have singing. This is where we get spiritually refreshed. This is our safe space. You heard of safe spaces? This is our safe space from the world. You go to work tomorrow, you might get beat up by people who they accuse you of this, they blame you, the supervisor's mad at you because something you didn't do, but it's not your fault, it's someone else's fault, and you get all beat up and you feel so bad, you go feeling kind of grouchy, and that happens again on Friday, and then Monday comes around, same thing, and Wednesday, same thing, Thursday, and then you come to church and you get your mind off of the things of the world for a little while, and you feel a little better when you leave church. Because the church is like our box for the cat. Do you understand what I'm trying to explain? I should teach this on Sunday. This is what people need to hear. You're going to get a preview of it already, so you got it. No, you get the what's that when it's sort of you get the teaser, you get the trailer or something like that. Okay, let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for the Bible, and we thank you for the nature around us, which teaches a lot of lessons and takes us back to the scriptures. So Lord, help us to be wise and help us to be